Because you know what, dude? You see him pull up in like the biggest ship you've ever seen in the fucking game.
Oh yeah.
And you have like what amounts to a bicycle in space. And he's like, just hop in.
Yeah.
And dude, it's fucking crazy. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first of our Recon Roundabout podcast. Essentially, what we have here is a podcast based around the 91st, but it isn't just exclusive to the 91st. My name is Dante. Of course, we have Loki as the co-host and Trauma as the editor on the background. Today, essentially, we're going to want to focus more on who we are, as the podcast focuses essentially on what the 91st is. And it's not just the 91st, but who the 91st is in general. So we can really kind of get down and let everybody understand what we're all about. Essentially, in the beginning, we'll kind of touch on the 91st and kind of go from there with some interviews in later dates. But essentially, today we're kind of going to be interviewing each other, Loki and I. So I guess we can just kind of get it started. Loki, if you want to go through and kind of give us a brief rundown of what you think the 91st really is.
Well, we're pretty much like the second smallest of every group around us. I don't know. This is my first ever unit. I joined it because it was small and I didn't want to really join any other groups that were large and get lost within the numbers. I don't know. Everyone here seems to know each other. They always have a memory of everyone. Everyone treats each other like family. Um, I don't know. I fit right in. As soon as I talked to my training instructor, who was Kappa, um, I got along with him pretty well, even though he lives, I'm pretty sure, somewhere in Germany. Um, no, after that, I started meeting people, started playing other games besides ARMA, like Ready or Not, Minecraft, and other weird titles. Um, it really just kept growing and growing and growing until I feel like right now I almost feel like I know everyone. I can't say that quite yet. I don't know everyone in Platoon 1, but I know for sure
Right.
everyone in Platoon 2nd.
Yeah, and I mean the 91st is a part of like the larger Arma kind of milsimi mod group that have really come out of the woodwork that is Arma 3. But I mean, essentially, I mean, this isn't my first what is it called? Like milsim, or what honestly most Star Wars milsims refer to just star sims. I actually was in the 101st, which gives us a pretty good leeway into essentially what that group that you mentioned, Loki, was, and that's Dark. So the Grand Army of the Republic command. It really sets everything apart because I feel like the structure here is a lot different, and it's not just the 91st, but the whole in general. I mean, in Gark, you have, like I mentioned, the 101st, the 91st, the 501st, the 327th, and the 212th. Am I missing anything?
Nah, because
Yeah,
I think the 21st and a few others are trying to get in, but they're not official yet. I don't think
right.
so.
Yeah, and I mean it's a nice family because even outside of Gark, even though some of the other units might be a little bit bigger, I feel like even if you go over to other Gark servers and kind of talk with the boys over there, you will still probably be treated like family, but more like cousins instead of brothers, if that makes sense. Um, I mean, the 91st, I think, really stood out for me as well because it has honestly drip. Like the drip here is immaculate. Um, and the rank structure and stuff like that is it's smaller, so you can kind of glow up a lot faster. If you're pretty active and get a lot of that really nice stuff. Custom helmets we do after VCT. Um, and essentially that's veteran clone trooper. We'll definitely dive more into the rank structure in later videos, but um, a lot of the focus is on like the customization and the family and like just a lot of the really nice stuff that you might not see from other milsims. Um, and that's the whole of Gark as well. Like I think I don't think I'm wrong when I'm pretty sure all 5 units they do helmet customization, right, Loki?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's all there, and I think it's awesome. I mean, but even in the 91st, like there's when you join in, it's not just like you're joining and you play. You join in and you start as a cadet, and that's more or less like recruit the very basic levels. Um, you are pretty much um, you know the basic trooper because you're kind of just learning how this group works. You go up to actually what is just CT clone trooper, um, and that's when you kind of start to billet. And a billet is essentially a spot, a designated zone that gives you like this is your job, this is what you do. And we play weekends, so Saturday it's 6:30 load in. Sunday it's 3:30 load in. That's all EST. And it's really nice to have a billet because I think most people probably wouldn't just play off a whim. I think most people probably seek out billets. Like
Oh
Loki,
yeah.
what is your billet? Like do you know your job per se?
Uh, well, I used to be part of when I first joined. I used to be part of 3-3, but we closed down third platoon just to make sure we actually filled up all the slots for first and second. So I think we were
Right.
stretching ourselves a little bit out. But I was part of 3-3, and then I moved down to 2-3, and I pretty much got to know everyone. It's fun when you get billeted though. Like you start forming even closer bonds with the people inside your squad. And of course
Yeah.
we divide our squads up to with our squad leader, our team leader, and then the team leader is leading Alpha and Bravo inside that squad. And I was part of Alpha for the longest time in 2-3. I stayed in it forever, and we kind of had a consistent chain of like rules. Like I used to always just run support, but of course
Hmm.
every operation has a different
Need.
way to solve it. Yeah, like sometimes might have to go EOD and blow up a wall or blow up a comms relay or something, or
Right.
maybe be a GL because it's wider area. Just take out more droids that way. Um, but no, we always kept a consistent chain in that group. We always made sure everyone was running their roles and everyone was tight on comms.
Right. And I think it's nice because it's not like you're stuck in a billet and that billet makes you do one thing. You know what I mean? Like you can switch.
Oh yeah, like when
Um,
I'm bored, I go to fucking first platoon and I'll meet a few more people. Like just last weekend, I ran with 1-1, and there are a whole bunch of really cool lads. I think Skit leads that one.
speaking of last weekend too, wasn't there a 212? Was it? It wasn't a charity
It
event.
was
It
a
was
212th joint up. Uh, we finally were like actually talking to them on the level of like, hey, what if we like played uh an operation together since we haven't done that in a long time. And they were like, "Oh yeah, we're so down for it." Yeah, yeah. And so we set it up, and of course, it took a little bit of timing because we had to make sure both of our mod lists uh
like
come
lined up.
together. Yeah, and we had a little bit of desync issues, but like literally, like 10 minutes after the beginning, it all worked itself out because of C7 and C2. They worked it all out.
Right, awesome. That's actually awesome. You mentioned the C shops too. The C7, C2, those C shops. For anyone that doesn't know or is just curious, those shops essentially are. Gosh, what's the best way to explain it? You think? Like this,
C
the
shops is a
background
military
work.
term, but yeah,
Well, yeah,
it's
but like, what
different
are they?
departments in like a business, I would say. So like you have your clerk, your boss man, your actual worker. They all have different jobs. Like I'm part of C2.
Right.
C2 also has different branches. C2
And what
alone
is
the top
C2?
is Zeus's.
Okay,
It's like main op. It's
yeah, I
like
always forget.
like C7, it's service support staff, but they do
Right.
lots of things. Like they run FOTM. That's what my little branch in C7 is. I do FOTM, so I make sure
What's
like
that?
flavor of the month. So
Okay.
every month we'll we'll load up a new like little fun little thing. Like right now it's in
Halo?
Halo.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're doing the testing phase right now because some of the assets are a little wonky and we're not used to it with our Star Sim. So like we're about to finish it up pretty soon here. Right now we're fixing on the flood,
Mm-hmm.
and making sure the elites and whatnot are uh okay because their shields and health and armor and everything's kind of whack, and our guns won't kill them as easy.
Yeah, you know what? Jesus, how many C shops is there? Do you know how many C shops there is, like, in total? Is there 7?
I
Or
believe it is 7 total, boss.
Yeah.
7, yeah. So, I mean, gosh, it's so we have C1 is administration, C2 is operations, C3 public relations. You know what C4 is?
Oh,
I cannot remember off the top of my head.
C4 is they're our backend. They handle all of our coding. So
oh yeah, yeah.
all of our assets that we use in game, all of our armor, all of our vehicles, we borrow them to some extent, or we make them all in-house. So we have lines of code and uh, make them function. We have texturers that give them nice designs and everything under the sun. We've made things from scratch. We've borrowed things from our fellow Gark units and I think units outside of Gark as well. We've collaborated with. It's really like a really cool aspect of this large community, the sharing things between each other and help each other out like that.
No, that's awesome. I mean, I feel like that's probably the coolest thing. That's probably what's made me really like dive into this group is that a lot of the things we use is like not maybe not made in house, but it's like made with by people with the intent of being like in, a blaster or a rocket launcher. Like we make those with the intent that they're supposed to be in Star Wars and we want them to be based on the lore of Star Wars. It's not like we're borrowing a rocket launcher from, something else and just calling it a Star Wars rocket launcher. Like it's very lore accurate stuff for the most part. As lore accurate as I think we can get sometimes.
Yeah, and C4 is also in charge, I'm pretty sure, of like making sure all of our assets are balanced. Like recently we just got a whole bunch of more AATs we can use. They're camouflaged ones. I mean, and they also make sure like, today I think there was a slight issue with the B2s, and they're a little bit tougher, but of course they're with a different mod pack and whatnot. And
Right.
but our C4 guys, I'm pretty sure make sure that like, damage output's good enough and whatnot, and our armor status is soaking up as much as a balanced gameplay as it could get.
Right. Dude, it's so awesome. I feel like it's so cool that people just like hop on that stuff right away. Um and it's nice that you have like actually like a dedicated group of people who care about this unit above just like I like playing games with you guys because even though that's important, it's nice to see that like people actually can give up some of their volunteered time and volunteer essentially to just make the game better. I think that's awesome. I think it's really awesome. I think that's probably the biggest reason I stayed. Um, and unfortunately, like you said, you were billeted in what 3-3, and that was a while ago.
Yeah.
Now I think what you said a year you've been in this unit.
Yeah. Sadly. And I say that because I'm a VCT and I've been in a year.
Right, and I'm a
Um,
Woe 1 and I've been in for
yeah,
5 months,
and
6
Lear's my
months.
hire up, and he's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I'm about to hit my year," and he's like in charge of me in C2, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I've been in here for a year, but I'm only VCT because I would take breaks and then I wouldn't go to the operation, so I want to get my attendance count, and so I was hanging out with you guys, but
Right, but
I
you weren't
wasn't getting the
there.
credit."
Right. And and like I mentioned before, it's like the that's what's really important sometimes, because there's a lot of people, maybe not a lot of people, but there's definitely, like, even me, there's a portion of me that likes to go to ops, because I like the drip. Like, I want to be WoW 2 so I can get more customization. I want to go higher because I want
Oh, yeah.
to, mess with my helmet even more. And like, um, super thankful to Homeboy Scorch. He is our uh, leader of leaders, essentially. He's the top guy, and
Company commander.
yeah, essentially, he is big dog on campus, and he graciously granted me 2 extra slots, um, both of which times was a screenshot in of a meme in a place where memes shouldn't be. And each time it was a screenshot, and it was like, congratulations, you two. And I'm like, oh yeah, just calling me out. All right, very cool.
Mhm.
um I think one thing that's really cool about this too is that, whereas you've been able to jump around a lot and meet a lot of people, I've unfortunately or fortunately only had basically one slot my entire time here. I've been a medic since I'm CT, and I adore it. I think that even in Loki, I know you know this, but we play Hell Let Loose, and or whatever game, and there's a part of me that I think wants to jump on medic every time for some reason.
Oh, yeah.
And I cannot help it. It's a pain. And I'm happy to be medic, and actually I am hopefully going to be moved up to platoon medic here in short order, once we can actually fill my old slot. So there's like a rank structure here, that I think I appreciate as well, even though it might be minute and it's sort of unrealistic, because, like, who really cares if I'm World 1, you're VCT, if I'm a warrant officer and you're a veteran clone trooper, and because it is just that. But it's nice to have that structure, and like it's cool that like there is leadership here, and it's not just like a clusterfuck of people all the time.
Yeah, and you got your warrant officer because you have more time and experience within the unit. Like, I don't know as much medical stuff as you do. I would say I know the bare minimum or maybe the basics of medical. Like I understand like you need to get a pulse and whatnot, but I don't know everything. Like how to like morphine bomb a person back to life somehow or epi bomb or whatever. But of course, like me, like yeah, you went to all the operations, you got your credit, you got your time in service, you ensured you were moving your way up. Me, I was being a social bird, and I was kind of like, "What's up, y'all? Let's play some games," and I did, which isn't bad. I don't care.
No, not at all. I mean, like, I think honestly, you and I both, brother, have spent less time in ARMA getting to know each other and more time sitting in TeamSpeak, or like a Discord channel and playing some game. Recently it's been hell let loose, but who knows if that'll change in like a month.
Oh yeah. But also going back to like medic, but like yeah, I understand like you wanting to be medic and everything because it's a core gameplay in ARMA, at least with A's medical system too, because like today at our option when I was Zeusing it, we had I think it was 1-1 on a hill. They got mass cas.
Mm-hmm.
It's so vital to have that goal, and of course we have a med channel, and so of
Right.
course whoever was the medic with 1-1, is calling in, hey Mascaz, I need a few more hands, blah blah blah, while his troops are pulling around security in the area. A medic is like the vital part of a squad to make sure and ensure that they're gonna make it to the objective alive and well. Because if he wasn't there during the mass cast, you just have the troopers that have basic bare
Right.
minimum knowledge of just medical, while you have this medical officer, pulling limbs.
Yeah, and it is nice, and I think it's nice for a lot of people that are in medic slots, because like, so right now, actually, speaking of just slots in general, billets, we have our 2 platoons. I know we mentioned third platoon got closed down because we had to make sure we filled everything. But that isn't really a warrant of people, because even though we have 2 platoons, each platoon has a couple guys in each team. There's 2 teams per squad. There's 3 squads per platoon.
Yep.
And there's 2 platoons plus how many detachments? There's Nova, our flight detachment, essentially, they fly
Yep.
lats around, among other things. They fly plenty of stuff around. They have Beskar. Beskar is the armor, so they get to do a lot of like tanks, light infantry vehicle type stuff. Ranite, um, Ranite is like ARF guys,
Yeah,
essentially,
they're
right?
ARF. They're ARF
Yeah,
boys. They wear
so
the ARF helmets.
really cool helmets, by the way. I fucking love those fucking helmets. But they do a lot of awesome stuff too, with like sniper rifles, small teams. And then we have Monka. I think Monka is always, at least in my time here, been a very popular group, whereas everything else kind of ebbs and flows in and out of popularity because of like, they're not looking for any more people or what have you. I feel like Monka is always the talk of the town, because it's like you get
Those
this.
jetpacks.
Yeah, because jetpack monkeys. It's an amazing group, and I think that I think I've heard more people talk about getting into Monka than anything else. I mean, the jetpacks alone, and I'm not sure if you know this, Loki, but I've heard that they're reworking our jetpacks, because we used to use what we just call, I believe, jump packs. And
Yep.
please, please too, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a difference between jump and jet, because the jetpacks let you fly, whereas the jump packs just boost you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
And
absolutely right there. Done a little bit of testing before we have. So what we currently have in our iteration for Monka is these jump packs where it's a very fixed flight path. You either have a little short jump, navigate, or a long jump to cover ground. But now we're looking into using jetpacks where you can just have a steady jump and do whatever you want to do.
no,
Yeah, I think it
that's
was
really cool.
JTLS that has more of that jetpack, because the JTLS, which I don't, is that, no, yeah, JTLS I believe is the one where you'll shoot up, but you glide like
Right.
meters and meters and meters. Where our jump packs, yeah, of course you'll go up, but you won't go as far as like the JTLS's like um jump, where it'll throw you probably like 200 meters out there, where the jump pack will throw you probably like 50.
Right. Yeah, because one of the many classes, even kind of referencing back to the C shops, because trust me, all this big stuff that we're mentioning as well, if you're ever curious about it, we definitely already have plans to talk about a lot of this way more in depth. So if you have questions, please be patient, everybody. But um, a lot of like the C5 training stuff actually lets us train for jump, um because it'll let kind of like me, who has never really done jumpers, not in Monka, and has no interest in that stuff, still have access to being able to do a more beginner version of that same thing. um but it's always really cool. I think that Monka is always the talk of the town. And lastly, on the detachments, again, kind of looping back to what we were originally talking about, because we're all over the place sometimes. But Jade is kind of like the face of the unit, the big wigs,
Yep.
the cool kids, because it's arc. They are like the cool kids. I don't know if you guys, because Trauma here, the fine gentleman that he is actually a part of Jade. He might know a little bit more on this, but I'm not sure if you guys actually do stuff in the way of different versions of ARC troopers. Or is it just you guys are like a certain type of ARC trooper? Like, do you know what I'm talking about? Like null ARC troopers and stuff like that?
In terms of like lore, like aesthetic, I'm not sure what exactly we're going for. I think it's just generic ARC troopers, phase
Right.
1.5. But in terms of what we do, we're here for you basically. We're here to help the unit at large. We're down to do whatever it is to help the squads, be it run AT or a medic if they need it. If they're down on anything, we fill it. If they need us to do something, we do it. Uh, just basically covering all bases to make sure everyone can have as much of a fun time as they can. And if
Yeah.
anybody is interested in joining and it's your first op, you will most likely will find one of us standing right beside you to make sure you have a good time.
Lovely. And they
Yeah.
always have that crazy big shark fin.
Oh,
they'll
I love
definitely
those
stand
fins.
out.
The fins
Um,
and the vest and the little karmas maybe
yeah, they
sometimes.
definitely have a fit to them. Yeah, I mean, that kind of goes into like the detachments, the side of stuff that um is kind of the outside the normal operations. And we even have like recruiters going into the C shops again more, because I know we're kind of jumping between them because they're semi applicable to each other. When you talk inside of like recruitment, really actually helps. We actually just got, I think, two recruits today,
Yep.
and they are kind of welcomed in. We have a mentorship program where we kind of give the higher up ranking guys the fresh to the game guys, and they might be new to ARMA completely. Like Loki, I know you mentioned you're this is your first gig. I mean, this is the first thing. So like you
Oh
going
yeah.
into ARMA, you don't really know what's going on. Whereas like you have my other people who have played 17,000 hours of ARMA. I know that's exaggerating, but a billion hours, and already kind of know what's going on. And there's no reason to kind of
Yeah.
hold their hand.
I remember I
But
got like 50 some hours on the game. I think I was playing a lot of the multiplayer. I think I was playing Warlords a whole lot, and I was like, okay, I kind of starting to get this. I was like, well, this is kind of boring, I kind of want to like do some more. And then found out, yeah, Star Sim is a thing. I was like, oh, that's
right.
cool.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's super fascinating just to look at like the whole group. And I think one of the most fun things that I think I did more when I was kind of like in the lower end of the rank structure, like CT, kind of newer, is fun ops. Now, fun ops are kind of called different things: skirmishes, fun ops. There's a billion different names because I think people just kind of give them a title, but they
Yeah,
are
in the
kind of
91st,
focused
it
on.
should just always be phone ups.
Yeah, but they you essentially take the mod pack that's slightly edited from the other Gark units. Like, let's say we wanted to go play with the 501st. We install their mods with some of our own, and we hop over there, and we can run our gear and stuff like that in their servers, and they can do vice versa. And so, like, you have an ever expanding list of, you'll have people. Jesus, I think I've gotten pings at like 5 in the morning,
Yep.
and like they've woken me up, and I've been like, there's literally like 17 people about to run an op that's going to last 3 hours long at 5 a.m. And it's insane. But we do actually have a pretty sizable group of like Australians. I think is our biggest group.
Yeah, we
Like
almost have a
Australians,
full
British.
size squad that's almost filled with. Yeah, we yeah we could probably fill a whole squad full of Australians.
Oh God, yeah. And it's so funny when they start just talking to each other in like their own little groups. It's hilarious. And I think it's always a good time to be here. But I mean, enough about the 91st, and more like Loki. Like, I know you've been here for a year. You've kind of spent a lot of time playing games, getting to know people. Where do you think you want to go from like VCT? Since I know you're spending more time actually trying to get up.
Oh yeah, I've been on that hard grind. Hopefully, got to be CSP pretty soon. Um, I'm at the beginning of the unit. Um, I think when I first joined, I was like, Jade is what I want to do. That's the cool kids. That's what I want to go to. And of course, to be in Jade, you got to have that experience, have that time aboard. And then once tryouts comes around, you got to give it your all because it's a month
Mhm.
long, and you gotta go through it. And it sounds like a fun process. Because of course at the time I was CRC, and I was like, all right, I gotta work my way up to that. And I did, and I slowly did, and then I was just kind of becoming more chatty instead of getting that experience I needed. And I was like, all right, I mean, we're hanging out. And then it kind of just started shifting because I was like, well, I've also loved flying. And in real life, I always love flying. I'm trying to maybe one day get my pilot's license, but it's like, oh, I could probably join Nova. And then I was like, well, I don't know, because I started playing like Hell Let Loose or like some more like armor games. I had a lot more fun playing as tanks and
Mhm.
whatnot. And I was like, oh, but what about Beskar? And then I just have a lot of fun shooting shit. And then I was like, well, Monka's also fun. There's a lot of choices. I think right now, um, I might join up with Monka. I think that's the plan right now. Because they might hold openings and tryouts again pretty soon here, just to get a few more numbers in that group. And so I'm thinking about maybe
Oh
getting
yeah,
that.
I
And of
mean,
course, I'm gonna have to get some more quals. I think I got to get my crew chief, and that's it.
well, like I know and I might be kind of wrong by saying it's semi disbanded because I don't think disbanded is a proper word for it, but it's just not the same anymore. Is maybe the better way to explain it because Archangel is like medics with flight packs on them, and they're kind of more of like a high speed medic. That was my goal from the go. I think I heard about them and I was like, oh, absolutely. Um, just super cool. You know what I mean? They get to jump pack, but they get to do medical. It's like I'm jealous. I already want to do that. I just want a jump pack, and then doing medical with a jump pack, sign me up. And but I think you kind of lose some of that um friendship, brotherhood that you might have because like as a squad medic, as like just one of the boys, you are, one of a part of, whether it be, Kyber first platoon, 1-1, 1-2, whatever. And those guys and you get to know those guys and their fucking vibes and you can hang out with people and like, because you're there, you're down there, you're talking to them. And I think that even moving up to like platoon, I'm sad that it has to be that way because like I miss being able to just have like a group of 10 people or whatever, and you guys just vibe out doing your own thing, uh, because like you said, Loki, I mean it's awesome. I think being a medic is probably the most fun because you kind of feel like wanted in the unit,
Oh yeah.
um whereas like you might not feel that way. You might feel like, oh well, I like being in unit, but um as a medic, I've always felt like, well, you need to be here because medics are super important, I guess. And
Oh
so
yeah.
it's always like, I'm happy to vibe with these guys. And it sucks because moving up platoon, I'll have to kind of pull myself back, even though there's like a medic family inside of that. So like all the medics kind of know each other and know, each other's things, like Widget, for instance. Him and I talked, I think, for months on Discord, and we never spoke a word to each other. And then finally, I played a first platoon out just to cover for a medic, and we finally talked to each other. I think it was like 4 months, and we were talking like we knew each other for like years. It's the funniest thing ever.
Yeah.
But I mean, I appreciate that the most.
Yeah, it definitely sucks. But I mean, with detachments also, you kind of float in between both. I mean, you're needed at both weekends, but of
Mhm.
course, if you can't make it to one, that's all right. You still have your other brothers that are gonna take up the next day if they got nothing going on. Um, but yeah, it's like if I ran into Monka, or got into Monka, I mean, yeah, if I was playing on like Sunday,
Mhm.
which is second platoon's day, I'm gonna be running into a lot of familiar faces, like Higgs or Hayes, or well, they're part of 1-3 now, I think, or 1-2. But yeah, I mean, you lose it kind of in a way, but at the same time, it's not gone. It's still there. You're still able to vibe, and like you might
Right.
be able to like be commissioned. Like, hey, Kyber 2-3 is going to be needing some assistance at the town below the shield generator. Go assist them, whatever. And you'll be fighting alongside them and still holding that same kind of honor bound you had with them before.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I get that. I see it. I I don't know. It's a nice little group because you get like you always kind of have people, whether or not you go up. Like, do you think you want to chase that leadership kind of role? Because for anybody that doesn't know, like there's CSP, which Loki, what does that stand for again?
Clone
Specialist?
specialist. Yep.
Yeah. So you have CSP, and then I believe after that it kind of forks off
Yep.
because you have your leadership ranks, and then you have what I am, like warrant officer ranks. And so like you have either non-leadership and leadership. And so like even in that, you have things that come along with it, because like warrant officers need to be in C shops. Certain number as you go up the warrant officer chain of command, the C shops kind of come into play a lot more. And like command leadership, there's only certain ranks you can get to by certain like leadership roles. Because I
Yeah.
don't think like you can just keep going up. There's like you have to be undertaking more responsibility to get to insert ranks.
Yeah, it's like we can't have like 5 CSS. We can't have like, a gabillion sergeants and whatnot. We have
Right.
to make sure like, if someone's gonna like whoever is in sergeant position steps down or goes on LOA, probably it's gotta get filled. Uh Determining on like if he's leaving or if it's a very long LOA and someone needs to just step in for temporary needs or whatever. That chain of command always comes in because yeah, like you said, warrant officers the non-leadership route if you really don't want to be held with a lot of responsibility, which is a route a lot of people take. But of course, with any once you get to those higher ranks, like yeah, like you said, a lot more rules and guidelines, longer time and grade, more ops, making sure you're active in C shops. And I think the active in C shops is probably the best thing, just to make sure that people are actually like going in there, helping out the server. Like, we always need more Zeuses or mission makers or writers. So, C2 is pretty cool for me. I like Zeusing. Like today was a lot of fun. I think Trauma had a lot of fun also.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just that sense of like power and God and just also getting the mess of your guys. Um like I think I threw a mouse droid at 1-2 and they were kicking the shit out of it for a while.
No, I
Um
wish I could have. I wish I could have been there, dude.
yeah.
It sounds great.
It was pretty fun.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love that type of stuff. I think that even like honestly, the most fun I've had though isn't even in Arma as much as like, because those games only run for so long and so many, you can only play so much before you're like, okay, I gotta go do something else, bro. Because honestly, that's where you like kind of make more of your friends. Like that's where Loki, me and you kind of started to hang out. It wasn't even like in Arma. I think that we met because we have another bro here. His name's Orange, and
Oh, yeah.
me and him played Star Citizen together.
Yeah, that was when we started making that connection.
And money bags Orange over here, dude. We'll just go on this tangent for a second. Orange spends like a bajillion dollars on that fucking game. Didn't you say he bought another ship? By the way, real money was spent here. And he spent like what? Like
He's such a
$400?
giving guy. But yeah, he really puts he puts people after themselves because like what was it? We were talking about GTFO on sale, and I was like, oh, I'll wait for my next paycheck. And I hear, the Discord ping go off, and he goes, oh, don't worry, you got GTFO now. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, I just bought it for you. Come on, let's go play. I'm like, what?
What a king.
And he's been doing that for other because he's like, oh, I don't care, man. I live happily, I'm just want to play some games with my buds and whatnot. But yeah, Star Citizen, I think that's where he's been dumping most of his money right now. He
Dude,
just got another
I
big
respect the
freighter.
trip. Because you know what, dude? You see him pull up in like the biggest ship you've ever seen in the fucking game.
Oh yeah.
And you have like what amounts to a bicycle in space. And he's like, just hop in.
Yeah.
And dude, it's fucking crazy. I cannot believe he does that, but you know what, man? I appreciate him for it because that is cool as hell.
Yeah, I think his recent one was the Mercury's Star Runner, which I'm pretty sure Star Citizen got a lot of inspiration from the Millennium Falcon, just the way how it's designed and everything. But it's fine.
Yeah, dude. Not even mentioning, I mean, like the other games that we've been playing with everybody else. I think, like I mentioned before, our most recent trope, Hell Let Loose. I mean,
Yeah,
Jesus, we spent hours on that game. We'll have like 7 people playing, and like we'll have to mute each other because we can hear each other talking over one another.
Yeah, because we'll be talking to other people in the field because of VoIP.
And honestly, VoIP is probably the best thing. I think is ever coming to games.
Mhm.
Because I mean, talking to random people, there's this one guy, dude. I want to even play tonight just so we can see if we can find him because I swear to God, he's the same person. But we
Yeah,
had a guy
I
named well, what was his name? Like Knight something? Or do you remember? It was like God, whatever. But we literally played one night, and then 2 nights later we saw a guy. And by the way, first night we met this guy, Mike Gain was donkey. Mike, he was screaming at the top of his lungs, and he was like ear piercing, and he was motivated. But
Yeah, we were playing as the USSR, and he was like, "Let's go!" We invaded the enemy territory with him.
blowing his microphone out. I don't know how that works with him, but what happened was I think 2 nights after that we literally bumped into somebody who was the same like attitude tone. Mike Gain was horrible, different name though. So, but like, and he wouldn't answer that question. I don't think any time that you or I asked him,
Yeah,
he wouldn't
he always went
answer.
silent.
He
Yeah.
was like, I don't know.
My cover might be blown.
And it hilarious game. I mean, I definitely recommend it if you're looking for something more realistic, but also just hilarious. And the
Yeah.
game is pain sometimes, but the game is so painful. I mean, gosh, but everything about it's really good, dude. I really can't knock anything when you play with friends.
Yeah, another game I think recently everyone's been trying to play was Master Chief Halo Collection. And
Yeah.
we got a whole bunch of people on at one time. We almost had a full game lobby for Forge. But yeah, we were messing around in campaign mode and then the multiplayer, then the Forge. And no, it's always fun because not everyone's gonna have that game, of course, but of course most people do. Just like Ready or Not, like in Ready or Not, you can only run with like 6 people, but if you get mods, you can get like 16, and then it becomes a real big clusterfuck, but fun at the same time.
You know what I've also noticed. Speaking of clusterfucks, and I think I'll get trauma smiling on this too. But the most masochistic game and the most painful experience I've ever had that I can't stop playing is Tarkov. They had
Oh
a
god.
wipe, and then I swear to God, like you would have TeamSpeak just groups of like 6 people like down the list, and they were just Tarkov runs,
Oh
Tarkov
yeah.
runs, and it is just like hell. You could sit in one of those, and in 10 minutes, somebody was just shouting in agony that they just lost $3.5 million worth of equipment in like
Yeah.
6 seconds, and I
Our
just
2IC map plays that day and night.
Worth noting on that, not real money, but sometimes it feels like you just lost an arm when you lose your kit. But oh
Oh
man,
yeah.
yeah, you'll find Mav, myself, Caber, Doc, Delta, all people in the 91st just constantly running 5-mans on Tarkov. And I'm looking to see if I can get people to come back to Halo and play through the campaigns all together from like Reach to Halo 4. I think it would be fun just to send it.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, there's tons of community aspects here. It's a community first and ARMA unit second is kind of how I think about it. But ARMA still takes a huge seat in it all.
yeah. I mean, I think Arma is like the bread and butter to it, but it's not the end all be all. Like you don't have to like if you're not really feeling like Arma, you can definitely like. There's obviously been days that I don't want to play, but you just show up, you do what you need to do for 2 hours, 3 hours. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden, you're good. You know what I mean? You can go back to doing what you're doing. You can go back to playing with people that you want to play with, and like, there's no big like super commitment. I guess might be the way to explain it. And I think that's something that I appreciate it is it's not what's the word? Like painful. Like you don't like if you feel burnt out, if you feel like, I don't want to do this right now, it's not like people understand. I think that that's one of the biggest things because there's definitely been days where like I probably went a week without talking to anybody up here. Like you can jump in, You can get right in. You can, keep talking. And I don't think anybody treats anybody differently. That's probably my favorite aspect of this too. It is, you really do feel like, okay, well, I don't have to commit to this always, because everybody understands, like, you have a family, you have a life, you have this, that, and the other thing. I mean, it's nice. I appreciate it. I don't think anybody could argue that. Yeah, but I mean, like, that's kind of the 91st. But I mean, there's so much more to this unit than that. I think that you have people like, what's his name? Because I see his name on Discord right now, but I cannot remember his name to save my life in like the unit, because sometimes people's names don't line up. But anyway, Bart, he likes working out a lot. I love working out a lot, and like I love to share that information with him because he's a bit younger than me, and so like helping him do that stuff is probably one of the biggest joys of this unit. There's also a couple people too that like I've talked about lifting, and like being able to kind of have that really nice like revolving door of information that you can garnish from like people. And like Bart, I think, lives in like Central America or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, I might be really wrong with that, but it's so cool, the fact that I can sit in a room with an American from a different part of the country, or like two, like, I don't know where you guys live, but we definitely don't live next door to each other.
Nope.
Somebody from Central America, a British person, an Australian, and like, a Japanese person. We could all sit in the same TeamSpeak and we could all talk to each other. And I think that's fantastic. I can't really knock it at all. And I definitely think that if anybody's interested in like joining a unit, if anybody's looking for like a good group of people they want to talk to, I promise you'll find it. And that's a fact. I mean, like, you'll find ton of people with a ton of different interests. If some one group isn't working for you, there are groups that sure as shit will. And of course, we always have our Discord open. We always post on Reddit. If you guys have any questions, you can always DM any of us. If you get into the unit and recruitment, we're always here. So we appreciate your time, guys. Thank you, Loki, for coming along. Thank you, Trauma. Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. Have a good rest of the night.